Iraq War, 8 great things that changed the world for the better. Vietnam's Christmas tribute. I had written this last year. This is event 4 of 8. Crushing the gods of Babylon. Saddam Hussein was more than your typical dictator. He sat at the crossroads for life of the Middle East. There was his power and cruelty, or this innate savvy to survive the impossible. Those are topics for the experts to cover. For me, it was his role as a god to the people of his time. It was the sum of his legacy that captured the ideal of Islam for an entire era of its history as a world power. He was the consummate leader of your average proud Muslim. 10 years of war with Iran proved Saddam's resolve. There were countless coup attempts led by America, Shia, Iran, Kurds, dissidents, Israel. They only served to varnish his image as Islam's immutable survivor. There was the first Gulf War, his leadership still standing against the U.S. coalition of all the world's armies, literally. These added up to make him a god of the Muslim world. This was the God that was laid waste in just 60 days by America's second invasion. This was the God dragged from a rat hole, a dirt grave in the ground. This God became the picture of a dithering old man. He stared out from a hospital, unshaven, frumpled, subdued to the commands of young American soldiers. Now a captive at last. There he sat through the humiliations of a kangaroo court. There he stood with a noose around his neck. The trapdoors finally falling beneath his feet, and his last breath along with it. Not a king, but a god laid waste by America. His 2 sons were to be the gods of his legacy, somehow even more brutal, true monsters of evil. Every torture of our fellow man, their repertoire of pride. There they lay, crushed by U.S. troops and all the hopes of a distraught father. The violent death of his boys slaughtered like common criminals. A desperate shootout of cowards of no glory. America had taken down the God of Islam's old power structure. The curtain pulled back on this mighty wizard of invincibility. It was not just a God humbled that year. It was the very mystique of tyranny itself. Tyranny lay the victim at last. A single coup, dictators everywhere were on notice, as the world has never seen. The ruse of a tyrant's power now fractured, ready to fall all around the world. With Saddam Hussein's end went Islam's paradigm of tyranny. The common man now to find his own way as a new people. That seems the broader story here behind their call for democracy of the Arab Spring. Saddam's fall was the precursor to this rise of democracy. It was only in Saddam's death that democracy could find its place in the world of Islam. Fate must have known as much, Saddam's end looking more the handiwork of destiny than that of men alone. If Saddam Hussein could fall, so could any dictator, every dictator. The same played out in small pockets throughout the world. Tyrants were finally served notice. Several even fell like dominoes. Islam's safe haven for dictators ripped asunder by its own people. Welcome to the Arab Spring, the youth rising in demand for democracy. Democracy now the torch against oppression. It was the weapon of choice as a modern technology of revolution, and now the future of Islam as well. It seemed a magical time, but it was somehow drowned out, maybe by a political calculation of the world's elite or their media brands, drowned out by the political narrative chaos as much in America as in the Middle East. Whatever the reason, critics and conspirators of every kind missed this larger story of an entire generation of Islam and their newfound vision for their life in democracy. Look over the explanations given. None cover this side of Saddam's story as the end of Islam's free pass for tyrants. We have the recent talk about America's defending the petrodollar. They say the U.S. was making an example of Saddam, a warning to other producers never to trade oil separate the U.S. dollar. Others complained of the American greed for oil and power. We have the all-purpose conspiracy of the industrial military complex. There they are the stranded refrain, war profiteers behind every U.S. military incursion. Early critics of neocons drew links to Israel agenda to destabilizing the regional threats. An original claim was about Illuminati designs for alien technologies buried in Iraq. And then we have the run-of-the-mill conspiracy, American working to outflank Russia and China to the world's oil supply. While there may be truth in any of these, they miss this sense of greater purpose, fate, with a mind all its own. You can know it by the common voice found in the will of men, each with their own agenda, but with a scheme that carries mutual purpose, as if planted by a willy puppet master. That seems true of Saddam Hussein. The conspiracies were the excuse to end a reign. It was not against a man or a country, but to the era of Islam as a religion of tyrants. No longer are the two synonymous. The difference between tyranny and Islam now growing further apart, a little more each day ever since the fall of Saddam Hussein. My dear veterans, yours was truly a fight against history's harshest evil, tyranny. You crushed a despot and so shattered the invincibility of tyranny itself. Your fight led to freedom's call into the darkest corners, the whole of dictators everywhere. Their iron curtain may fall upon people once more, but in the year of your battle, tyrants were but fragile monsters in long retreat. I salute thee on behalf of these people of history and the world, gifted with the bravery of your own freedom's stand and the call of duty.